Hello and welcome to the Divorced Dadvocate, where we help dads create a healthier and less traumatic divorce. My name is Jude Sandoval and I am your host. Thanks for listening in today. I've got a quick show note before we get rolling here, and that is to jump on the website at thedivorcedadvocate.com and complete the divorce quiz. We've been getting a ton of men filling this out, and I've been meeting a lot in talking about the process and where you're at in the process compared to where other people have been. This tool is fantastic. It's the best tool I've found. I'm so excited. There's been so many men that have connected our community and started their work through this. So jump on the website at thedivorcedadvocate.com and click on divorce quiz. It'll take about 10 or 15 minutes, and then you can sit down with me for a little bit and go through and review the results. Welcome to this version, an episode of Making Men Better. I am so pleased to have the founder of Making Men Better, Allan Reed, with me today. Welcome back, Allan.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks, Jude.
Hey, we've been kind of talking. We haven't seen each other too much over the past couple of weeks, and we just saw each other this week. And one of the things that we started to talk about was intentions versus expectations. And I know this was something that was coming up in my life and in was coming up in your life. And it's kind of funny how this stuff kind of comes up in correlates in lives of people who are working and doing work together and friendships or whatever it might be. So that was our topic that we decided to talk about today. And I know that you are I don't want to say a fan, it's not a fan, but pay close attention to language and the differences in intention and expectation. I feel like really comes down to a difference in language and an approach to language. And so first, to share a little bit about your study and what you pay attention to language and why that's important, because I want to create the context around why that's important to pay attention to first.
Yeah, for me anyway, my experience has been that I'm an exterior processor. So I always appreciate it when people are quiet and then they take the time to really formulate their words, their language, so that they can say it in a very efficient way. But for those of us that find our language via exploring the words themselves and boiling things down verbally or expressing them externally, language is an important part of how I finally get to the place where I have a conviction. And so I think, as you and I've talked about before, that process is different for different people.
Sure.
But for me, I can have faith or a belief in something, and in the process of working through from faith to belief is a journey of experimentation. And right. When it finally becomes a belief, something that's solid, something that's in a conviction form, then I have language. And it's usually pretty beautiful. It's gone through a filtering process, and I can really begin to speak then out of a conviction.
Right. So if I'm hearing you describe that, it's a process for you if you're taking time to be silent and think about or feel and then think about and then formulate what it is then that you want to articulate. Is that kind of what you're saying? And then that's where it's important that the language that comes out is inconsistent with what that process result has been, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So that's huge, because I feel like a lot of what comes out right? We haven't thought through, right? It's been something that we've maybe just assumed in our childhood, or a thought process that is assumed, or a belief or value or an assumption or a judgment or whatever that might be. And we haven't done exactly what you've said, which is, oh, I'm going to get quiet with it. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to have a process around what it is in order then to be able to articulate it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, think
Yeah.
about it for a minute. How much of our language comes from experience? Things that we experienced as a child, could be and affirmations that tell us things about ourselves that we then articulate about, or confidently communicate with respect to who we are. But think about all the things that come out that are a result of faulty thinking, wrong
Yes.
thinking, belief systems that have been harmed. And so language is one of those things that really kind of blows the whistle on our beliefs.
Yeah, that's that's huge. And we're going to use this example today, but I just want to emphasize to everybody listening out there that there's kind of I want to say two sides to this too. And one is that language that's going on within yourself and your thoughts, right? That those words that are coming in, but also the ones that we're externalizing and maybe saying to those around us or our kids as well. And that's why I felt it was important that we talk about this. And we're going to use this specific example, but this can apply to most all of our language if we're not very careful in what we're saying to ourselves or to those around us. Then it could do damage. It could perpetuate something that's something that we may or may not believe. So paying attention to that. And I think it's Jordan Peterson uses the analogy, and this might be a different one for a different show episode or different episode, is he says, if it doesn't make you feel empowered when you're saying it, you probably shouldn't say it. So it's kind of a test for paying attention to what you're saying. And Jordan Peterson does a whole lot talking about using words that make you feel empowered, that make you feel good, because it's in tune to your body. If you're saying something that doesn't feel right, that it's going to manifest, that you're going to have a feeling around it. So I wanted to emphasize that. But let's talk then now about this specific example of the difference between expectations and intentions. So expectations, Oxford Dictionary describes it as a strong belief that something will happen or be the case, or a belief that someone will or should achieve something. And when I think about this, and I'd like your take also on what you feel an expectation is. To me, it feels like an expectation is tied to an outcome. Any thoughts on that? That an expectation is tied to an outcome?
Yeah, perceived outcome,
Mm-hmm.
something that we want. Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Okay, so if we're thinking, and so let's maybe go through a process. Do you have an example of an expectation you may have set for yourself that then was tied to an outcome?
Yeah, if you don't mind, let me take it just a little different direction. How about an expectation that's been set for my wife? Because
Okay.
fair amount of time that it comes up that I have certain intentions on the inside, things that I need from her, want from her.
Mm-hmm.
But having grown up and had the power that I believe each one of us acquire from an integrated home where we're spoken into, and there's life-giving words, and they're the kinds of expectations of ourselves, is that we're powerful, and that we have the ability to communicate that, and confidence that we're going to be seen and heard. So, but where that was interrupted for me is that I wasn't powerful. I wasn't given confidence that I could have expectations that would be valued or listened to. So here's an example that I still deal with, and that I'm certainly working on all the time, is that I have an expectation that that my wife is interested in hearing about my day, about the kinds of things that I've had to work throughout the day, relationships, appointments that I've had. And so by the time we sit down in the evening and I've got these things that are built up that I want to communicate to her,
Right.
my expectation is that she'll give me her time. But internally, I have this voice at times that comes up and says, well, she's not going to be interested. And then I've got a 5-year-old that's jumping around, interrupting conversation. So my expectation was that we would be able to connect over conversation. And when that expectation's not met, sometimes I default into she's not interested.
Right. So that's great, because results depend on several factors, right? Both internally and externally. And sometimes we don't have control over the results. So if we're focused on the result, which was, I've got to get out what I need, as opposed to it being an intention, then that sets yourself up for disappointment, right?
It's a good word.
Is that what I'm hearing you say? Is like, well, my expectation was this, but I don't have control over it because I'm thinking about the result that I want, right? The expectation. And so when I don't get that, when I not met, then I'm disappointed.
Right. And there can be like a dual expectation, right? One expectation is I'd like to have my opinion valued, my thoughts listened to. But then there's also a circling expectation that says, but I don't feel like I'm going to have my needs met. I'm expecting that probably won't happen.
Right. Well, and we could do to take it to like a more specific, maybe a physical example. Like if you're trying to get back into shape, like, and you decide I'm going to go to I'm going to lose X amount of pounds, and I'm going to go to the gym X amount of days, and you create all these expectations for yourself, but then you're not getting the results that you want. You want to say, I'm going to lose this amount of weight, and you're not getting that. Then because you've created this expectation, you're going to be disappointed if you don't hit those results. Kind of the same thing, right? As opposed to, and so let's bring in the difference now with intentions, which is for me, in finally learning this, because God, it did take a real long time, right? Because kind of our society is set up around all this goal setting. There's all these books that are goal setting, but we're setting ourselves up for disappointment at the best, right? And what we might define as failure at the worst if we don't reach those goals. But if we're setting an intention, which, an intention is defined as something that we want and that we plan to do. So you kind of see the difference, right, between that and an expectation, which is a belief that something will happen or be the case. It's something we want and plan, not a belief that will happen, right? So I'm wondering then, in your example, what intention And I think this is a good one, right? For us men, especially divorced or divorcing men, getting into new relationships, at least for my audience, for the men and making men better as well, that it's we don't have a good understanding around how to be able to communicate this effectively in our relationships, this kind of difference between intention and expectation. So maybe we can work on this example that you just brought out in creating what would be a better intention for you. So now we're talking like about your internal dialogue, right? Of what do you feel would be a better intention for you to create that wouldn't be tied to an outcome, that would be more tied to the process of getting there. Do you have an idea?
Well, I was thinking as you were articulating that it's probably a fair question through the process to ask whether first of all, my intention is realistic.
Yeah, sure.
If I want a certain outcome, am I setting myself up to succeed?
Right.
And I think I shared with you that a 5-year-old jumping around interrupting probably is an unrealistic intention. And so part of the journey or the process of coming to get what I need, because at the end of the day, that's what we're looking is we're seeking connection, seeking that the connection that comes with for me, just being able to have that with my wife, being able to share my day. So I think revisiting intention and desire with the right expectation and maybe challenging that expectation a bit.
Yeah. So
Whether it's the right time.
in that example, what do you feel would be a healthier expectation that wouldn't be tied to, or what would be a healthier intention that wouldn't be tied to an expectation that you need to be listened to each night? What, like maybe so I'm putting words in your mouth, so please help me refine this, but your intention is that you want to be able to share about your day or share about what's going on in your life, correct?
Yeah, and I think it would start, the best place to start when I'm present in mind, this is where I shine, is to communicate my intention.
Mm-hmm.
I would really, Christy, I would really like to spend some time with you. There's some things that I want to process with you today. And I realize that, Lorelei is an important part of what we do in the evenings, but at some point, could I get 10 minutes of your time to just share some of the things that have meant something to me today?
Right. So your intention being that you want some time, so then your expectation isn't that you're heard as soon as you get home, or that's an interruption from the kiddos running around or whatever comes up doesn't derail you from that, because it could be before you go to bed, it could be in the morning, it could be at some time that you guys agree to and find the time to do that, as opposed to being worried that you didn't get the result. And then, like you said, then you're placing all this judgment around like, oh, I'm not either, I'm not worthy, or she doesn't care, or we can go back to
that this is the way it would go. Yeah.
Right. Like, and then, you go down the rabbit hole, right? Which is, oh, I didn't expect this. I thought I would have a more loving relationship or a spouse that cared about it. Like, we can really just wrap ourselves around the axle if
But
we,
what's beautiful is if you think about what I said, look at the opportunities that are in that kind of statement that allow for connection.
yeah.
I've communicated my need. And I don't know about you, Jude, but that's one of the things that I struggle with. I've got a need, and I want them to pick up on that need because it's vulnerable to communicate your need. But what a fabulous way of communicating value to her while still getting a sense of having been powerful. Remember, we talked about that before.
Yeah.
It's a powerful thing for a man to say, listen, I value time with you. And there are some things that I want to be able to communicate about my day that we can't get done right now because it's not the right time. Could we take some time a little bit later to do that?
Right.
And then, you know, the expectation is then allowed to be reciprocated to yeah, absolutely. Why don't we do that 10 minutes before bed or after Lorelei goes down?
Right. Yeah. And that's, you know, that's absolutely true. And here's something I'd like to add to that is try not to be tied to the outcome of that, how that happens. Right. So stating your needs is in this intention, but not being tied, because maybe the outcome is as opposed to doing it in the evening, maybe you're doing it in the morning, or maybe that happens. Like, I'll go back to that to use a different example. And the only reason I'm using a different example because it's more physical as opposed to emotional. We're talking about an emotional one with you. I'm talking about a physical one of like where people are trying to get healthier. So the intention, instead of I'm going to lose 30 pounds and I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to, you know, lift this much weight or do this, could be I want to feel healthy and fit, and I want to feel well rested and energized. And so that's the intention. And so then you're not tied to, you know, you're not tied to an outcome. You're not tied to the specifics of, oh, it's like 30 pounds that I'm losing. Oh, I'm healthy and fit. I feel healthy and fit. Okay, well, then you're not worried if you lost 10 pounds or 15 pounds or 30 pounds, because the intention was to feel healthy and fit. It doesn't matter if you went to the gym 5 times or 3 times, because the intention is you felt healthy and fit. In your case, you want to be heard and you want to be able to share your day. That's your intention. Didn't matter if the outcome is that it happens in the morning, it happens over dinner, it happens when you come home from work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the intention's connection. So,
yep.
And
yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So that's what I was trying to get at for you. I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but so connection. So your intention is to connect with Christy, and so not being tied to an outcome. That's the intention. So it could be however you determine it, right? And so, but then what you were stating. So you just went to the next step of what I was trying to say, which then is conveying that need, right? Having effective communication to convey that. Your intention is you want to be connected, so then you convey specifically the need that you're wanting by saying, hey, I want to take this time and talk.
Yeah, I like it. And back, just taking a step back, for people like me that didn't grow up expecting to be heard or seen. Back to the idea of here's a powerful expectation with an outcome attached to it, that I am powerful, and what I have to say is really important. Now, if I can believe that and use language and speak to myself in that fashion, then it changes the way my expectations look. Then I can step back and go, all right, what is the intention? Right. You know, here's the, and then back to your example of physical health, losing 30 pounds versus being healthy allows me to take a daily steps.
Yeah.
Not judge myself so harshly along the way. So I feel like, and tell me what you think about this, Jude. I feel like when there are expectations that are not balanced with good thought, the intention phase, we're always way more judgmental of the people around us and ourselves, which really is very anti-productive to any kind of goal that we might have.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better than that. That's exactly right. Because then when we're tied to that result, because we've had this expectation, I want, I want to lose 30. I want my wife to listen to me when I come home. Whatever this expectation is, when it doesn't happen, then it just blows up, as opposed to exactly what you said, which was, hey, I could go to the gym 5 times. Hey, we could talk in the morning, or maybe we go on a date night. I'm still being heard. I'm still having have a connection. But it's not in maybe necessarily the way that I envisioned. So we don't get, it gives us the opportunity to be creative, right? In how we're thinking about and doing things, because we can't control all of life as much as someone like me would want to, or anybody that, and we as men sometimes have that challenge. We want to have order to things and be able to have it going in a direction and controlled. So we create these expectations and we create these goals. And that doesn't mean that it's not bad to have, that it's bad to have goals, that, if we just loosely put that intention out there and then enjoy the process and be creative and flexible in it, you won't set yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah, said well. I like that.
Yeah. And then, then that goes, but let's take this back full circle to what you started us out with beautifully, which is that takes making sure to reflect and think about, feel what it is that you want to set intentions for, and be able to do that in a specific manner.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's where, for me, prayer is important.
Yeah.
Prayers, I have learned to doubt my thoughts, to question where things are coming from. And it's simply because I'm in a journey of learning about the truth about what I think. And I've learned that I've had to put a comma behind some of the absolutes.
Yeah.
I've said this is absolute truth, and every time I experience it, this is what it is. And so prayer has allowed me to be able to pray and ask God to, first of all, show me who I am.
Yeah.
How important is that? Men, I think in particular, have developed ideas about who they are, their identity. Some have been shaped by the culture and the expectations that have been put on us. Some of them have been shaped by our families, places of origin. And the ultimate goal is that a man was intended to be powerful. So his expectations are to be mature. The goal is maturity, that I respond to the people around me, not in an abusive way, not in a dismissive way, but in a way that really ultimately helps them and moves them up. And so guys are meant to be life-giving, to have the kinds of expectations that aren't simply coming from a place of judgment, but they're born out of a desire to help somebody thrive, like my wife and like my children. And so when they're coming from a whole place where I'm powerful, where I feel seen and heard, they deliver a powerful message of life. And then that comes out in the form of really good language,
right.
Where the words are well chosen and they're intended to bring about life rather than, try harder.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother episode, right? Like just for men, the try harder or do better or achieve more, loop that we may get into. So, all right. So let's just briefly summarize the steps that we talked about. And that first one that you brought up was create that self-awareness, right, around what it is, the intention that you want, identifying the attachment to the results brought by the expectations, and just get quiet, get in prayer, whatever your process is to understand what that is. The second one was letting go of those expectations, getting away from that, which leads to the third one, and that was shifting from an expectation to an intention, and then enjoying the process to getting to that intention, because it's going to just allow you less stress, less anxiety, and if you can get real good at it, which I'm not, and I know it's a challenge, then it becomes part of, and let's finish with this, because I'd love your perspective on this. Then it becomes more about the journey and less about the destination or getting to the destination. And if you share, because there's some biblical principles wrapped in that, which is what I want to finish on and get your take on.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking about Jeremiah chapter 29:11, where God says this. He says, "I know the thoughts I have for you, thoughts to give you a hope and a future, not to harm you." And so the expectation of God is that truth would sink inside and alleviate stress and alleviate worry about the future, and give me a sense of God's favor, his good intention toward me. So I would think that a great application for this, Jude, I want to recommend that if anyone who's interested would like to grow their spiritual life, you could Google "Who I Am in Christ," and give you great scriptures that would identify things that if we fill our mind with, then we can begin to have an accurate expectation of God's intention toward us. And that's really a game changer.
Yeah.
I just met with a guy earlier today, and he said, you know what? He goes, people really like me, but I don't like people. And I said, well, why is that? And he says, because his expectation is that when they finally get to know him, they're going to think he's junk.
Yeah.
See, attached to that belief system. So
right.
The reason why I point people to the Bible is not because I think that you need religion, but there's a relationship that happens when we hear the truth and we hear God's good intentions toward us, that it actually is like putting seeds into the soil, where for a lot of us, our soil there's thistles and there's rocks in there. And when we start to care for the soil by allowing the truth to get in there, it produces really good fruit.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. I think that's the best place that we could leave it. So, Allan, where can those listening connect with Making Men Better?
Yeah, makingmenbetter.org will give you an idea. And what we're all about, really, when you boil it down, is helping men rediscover their original design.
Awesome.
And we know that we cannot do that in isolation. We've got to have guys getting together and experiencing that resonance that happens when we have strength and support. And then, that we can go from there on to help others around us.
Well, and briefly share with us, because one of the pillars of Making Men Better are valor groups, and what are those, and why would that be something positive for those listening to get involved with?
Yeah, valor groups are a way of fighting against the norms of culture, where guys are isolated and they don't have many places to go with who they are. So valor groups are intended to gather guys together and to go over 7 questions that are very discussion oriented. It gets us talking about our personal lives on the front end. It's what are we grateful for? What kinds of things are stressing us out or making us feel uncomfortable? And then we go from there into an examination of a passage. Maybe it's a proverb, maybe, it's scripture. And we look at that and we discuss that. There's no professionals in the group. There's only guys talking about it, lively discussion.
Awesome.
Then followed by that, we'll ask, because it's really important for men not to simply have theories about how things ought to be. So we create an I will statement that,
Nice.
so based on what we've just read, maybe it's the love chapter of First Corinthians. So I will be a better listener to my wife's heart this week, or I will be more intentional about being present tense with my kids.
Sure.
So these are the I will statements that's followed up with, finally, if this is good news, if you've experienced good news in the small group, who would you tell about that? And maybe encourage to come next time. So we have these groups that meet weekly, they meet bi-weekly, and they meet over Zoom. There's lots of different ways that you can engage this thing, but I would just say to those men that are listening, the connection that we have is powerful. Being in a group where you can hear other men's stories and be led by their vulnerabilities and led by their weaknesses really establishes and creates and gives permission in our hearts to be vulnerable, to be real. And I'm telling you that's where healing begins.
Absolutely. So everybody's listening, who's listening, their I will statement is I will subscribe, I will leave a comment, I will like, and I will forward this to another man in order to provide value. How's that for all the listeners? I will. And go check out makingmenbetter.org. Allan Reed, awesome. Always a pleasure chatting. And until our next episode of Making Men Better.
Yeah, so good. Really enjoyed today.
All right. Take care.